Good afternoon, Rotary. You notice I like to ring the bell like the stock market opens. Lots of ringing. You know that we're getting started, just like the stock market. All right, welcome to the 104-year-old Rotary Club of Fayetteville. My name is David Sager. I'm your president this year, and welcome. Let's do the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? No good will be beneficial to all concerned. All right, we've got the hog cogs.
No, the car.
The cog hogs. The hog and a cog.
Sing along with us. God bless America. Which way are we gonna say it? You're, wait a minute, I'm over here. No, I'm over. That's what happened with age.
Larry, Curly, and Will.
You do that on purpose, you know. Happens with what? God bless America. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairie, to the ocean, white fall. Bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
I think that table over there has had too much foam.
No, keep it going.
And normally you would sit down, but not for this song. Coming up real soon, Razorback football. Ready, go! Hit that line, keep on going. And get that ball right down the field. Give a cheer, pop, pop, never fear, pop, pop. And Arkansas will never yield. On your toes, Razorbacks to the finish. And carry on with all your might. R-A-R-K and SAS for Arkansas. Fight, fight, yeah! Hey, so Razorback!
All right, Harrison, before you sit down, it's Harrison Pittman. The floor is yours.
All right, Sergeant at Arms to do. First thing up is President David asked me to include we had a nice card from Peace at Home. They were a recent Change Cup recipient. This is August is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so perfect timing. It's a very nice note thanking us for the financial contribution and that this will be used to help victims of domestic violence get their lives back on track. And so Sharon Wright from Peace at Home sent this wonderful note. All right. Visiting Rotarians, Wade Caldwell. And then also from Northside, visiting Rotarian Craig Shy. We're not gonna make y'all stand up today. And then members with guests, we have Diane Warren.
And Ron Warren, my husband, who retired from his job in May and so has time to join me at Rotary.
All right, and then these jokes are gonna be absolutely terrible. Oh, go ahead. They're still gonna be terrible whenever we get to
it. This is my
Yes.
accidental guest. This is Holly Gaste, and she's just observing all this. So please be on your good behavior and think about what it is.
Yeah. Did I miss anybody else? All right, now on some pretty terrible jokes. Y'all can, don't blame me, blame a gentleman named Ryan Jacobson. He's the, out in California, they call him county executive, EVPs for the county farm bureau. It's Fresno County Farm Bureau. I get their newsletters, the largest ag county in the country. And I thought, these are terrible. I'm gonna use them. So, they're worse than John Breed's jokes, so. So.
Knock it off.
Just don't vomit in the floor. All right. Why was the computer late for school? Because he had a hard drive. They only get worse. They only get worse. Why do calculators make great friends? Because unlike Chuck Colbert, you can count on them. That was actually pretty funny. What is a math teacher's favorite dessert?
Hi.
Oh, yeah, I told you they were just joke. God, nailed it. All right, what did the buffalo say at drop off?
Bye, son.
Oh, my God. 50% crazy. All right. For today's invocation, I'm going to read a poem that's from the Rotary International, or a prayer from the Rotary International site. Please join me in your tradition as I pray in mine. Creator and sustainer of all that is or ever will be, accept our thanks for this day and all its blessings. We ask that you guide and direct our club, its leaders, and our actions. Grant that each of us may feel our responsibility to Rotary, to our community, to our country, and indeed to all countries and peoples. Bless our fellowship today and bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies in your service. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Harris. Appreciate that. Become a Paul Harris Fellow for $50 a month, or for less than 2 years, or $28 a month for 3 years. Consider that. There's just a few people that I don't know. We'll get it. We'll talk more about Paul Harris Fellow. It's one of my things for this year. Butt Cups for July. Senior Support in Action, and it. Oh, look at that. I did not fix the slides just right, did I, Emily? Oh, yeah. I'll fix it before October. Kelly Gemmel, will you tell us about this? Yeah, come on here.
Hi, everybody. Last week I realized David asked for suggestions, so I threw out a suggestion. This is an organization I'm very passionate about. I am currently the committee chair for it, and I am also a volunteer. What the organization is, it's part of the Foundation for Washington Regional, and in October, the foundation is going to come speak to us. So you guys, and you've heard, I've had them come speak before, but it is a volunteer program for non-medical services for seniors. And actually, the age is 60 or older, and the closer I'm getting, I don't necessarily consider myself a senior, but I'm approaching that very quickly. But it is everything from friendly visits to grocery shopping. We keep a pantry, and that is a paper goods pantry and a food pantry. And within the last year, we have been given some fresh fruit and refrigerated kind of items that we didn't typically have. Most of it was all canned food or fruit, vegetables, oatmeal, that kind of stuff. But we do a lot of outings. We've had two different, the Walton Family Foundation had given us a grant to give us be able to do outings. That came to an end last year. And so to keep all the things going that we do for these seniors, both in Washington and Benton County, I thought it would be nice to have the Butt Cups go to their program. So that's what it is. And we always need volunteers. So if anybody's interested, come see me.
Thank you, Kelly. Let's continue to send in those action photos. Now, we're going to hear more about service projects that are coming up for our club where we can be more engaged, be out there, be active, and pose for some of these pictures. So let's keep those coming in whenever you get those. Back to something last week. I just want to say again we have probably twice as many people here as last week. in my term as president, I just want you to know that my top three priorities for this year, membership development, which means bring somebody, invite somebody. You know someone in the community that's a business owner, leader, banker, attorney, you name it. We'd love to have them, and we'll make sure they have a good time. And we will make sure to get them involved in service projects, increasing service projects. I understand, Jimmy, are we ramping up to what, one service project a month? At least one service project a month. That'll be good. That'll give it.
Good.
So she wants suggestions, understanding that we can't all make it to all service projects, but if we're doing them more frequently, you can make it to some of the service projects, and that's my commitment for myself. All right, 100% Paul Harris Fellowship too. We can do that, and we have ways to get that done this year. Kurt, announcement.
The voice of the Razorbacks can only be sweeter with a bowl of Highland ice cream provided by the Washington County Historical Society. So come back here and get your bowl of ice cream before we get to the speaker today. This Saturday is the 53rd annual Washington County Historical Society Ice Cream Social. It's our major fundraiser for the year. Tickets $5 for individuals, $2.50 for children under 6 to 12, and $15 for family. I've got tickets if you like. You can buy them online at info@Washington County Historical Society, or you can show up and buy them at the door. 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 118 East Dixon Street at the Washington County Historical Society headquarters house. And the Cog Hogs are starting us off with the part of the entertainment to be followed by the Northwest Arkansas Old Time Fiddlers. So please come get as much ice cream as you want and cheer on our Cog Hogs.
Red time.
The floor is open for announcements. Okay, recognition. Has anybody done anything? I watched the arrest page. I haven't seen any faces. What? Okay. Couple of things from your president. I could use a volunteer. One of the jobs I'm tasked with is the caretaker of the hogs, and I'm not a good farmer, and I've caused some damage here. Is anybody in the room good with super glue? Conrad Odom, are you here today? No, oh, shucks. If you'll see me afterwards, if you want to take my little broken hogs home and fix them up for me, I'd really appreciate that. All right. John 3, please introduce our guest.
All right, hey, everybody knows our speaker at least by voice, so I'm going to be brief. He was the voice of Razorback baseball for over 20 years. He is the voice of Razorback basketball. He's been the voice of Razorback football since 2007. 2007. Anybody know who the voice was right before him? Who was the voice before him? Bud Camp, right? Isn't that right? All right, I was right.
Well, there's a couple.
Well, there's a few year gap, but nobody was known like they were. There are voices in your life that throughout your life will have a big impact on you. They'll either bring up memories or they may be events, either present or past. The voice of the guy that used to do every single trailer in the movies. No matter how bad the movie looked, when you heard that voice that said, "in a world," you would go, hey, that movie might not be that bad because that voice is talking. When you hear Forensic Files, you hear that voice, you know murder and destruction are going to follow, which is not an analogy for our speaker. But I assume Chuck Barrett knows, or at least suspects, that his voice is very important in the lives of Arkansasians. That it has become a part of the fabric of life for Arkansasians. When you hear Chuck Barrett's voice, you know two things. Number one, he's probably going to be speaking about the Razorbacks or an assortment of fine Petit Jean meats and hams, locally processed in Morrilton, Arkansas. But the other thing you know is it's going to be interesting. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Chuck Barrett.
Thank you, John. I was thinking when I was driving over here today, this is my 32nd year with our football network. And 1994 was my first year. And I'm going to tell you, I started at the bottom. The first year I was with the football network, my job was to drive to Little Rock, and all the programming was produced in Little Rock then. It wasn't quite like it is now. We operated out of a building on Pine and Cedar down there in Little Rock. And so I would go to Little Rock every Friday and I'd spend the night. And the next day during the broadcast, I first answered the phones during the call-in show. Then I would read the scores at halftime, and then I would read the scores at the end of the ball game. And that was how I got my foot in the door. And I think it was our second game. I've told this story before, and I'm not embellishing one single thing. It's absolutely true. When people would call the show, they would call the pregame show. Joe Ferguson, great Razorback. A lot of you remember him. He was on the show with a guy named Ray Tucker, who was a television guy in Little Rock. And my job in the studio in Little Rock was to answer the phones, get the name of the caller, where they were calling from, what they wanted to talk about. Pretty easy. And then warm them up a little bit. Well, we played an early game. If those of you, some of you are old enough to remember when they played those Jefferson Pilot games at 11:30 in the morning. Well, back then we only did a 90-minute pregame show. So we came on the air at 10 o'clock. And the program begins, phones start ringing, we get a couple of people on the show, everything's going fine. And then we get a call from a lady named Mary in Little Rock. I could tell she was a little bit older. And here's what I didn't know. Was on the radio station there, we were at the old KARN building. Normally, at 10 o'clock on Saturday mornings, they aired a program called The Garden Show. And there was a lady named Janet Bierman Carson who hosted this show. And some of you are laughing. You can probably skip to the end. Mary wasn't quite sure what show she was called. I'll just put it that way. And I said, what's your name? Where are you calling from? She said, well, Mary in Little Rock. And I said, well, Mary, if you'll hang on just for a second, Ray and Joe will get right to you. And she said, okay, thank you. And so I don't know where they were doing the game, but Ray says, Mary in Little Rock, you're on hog calls. And Mary said, I'm having some trouble getting my begonias to grow. And my job was to get them ready. And so I knew that if somebody was going to get blamed for that, it was going to be the rookie. It was going to be the second game guy. And so I'm dying a slow death there in the studio. And Joe Ferguson, God bless him. So, well, Mary, I think I'd put some water on them, make sure they get some sunlight, and I'll bet in a couple of weeks everything's okay. And Mary said okay and hung up. Now, this was 30-something years ago, and Mary was getting on up there then. I'm sure she's not with us now, but I promise you she went to her grave without ever knowing she was on the Razorback pregame show. But that's how it started. So I guess we've done a little movement since then. For us, our broadcast crew's been together forever. Quinn Grovey and I started working together in 1995. All of our crew, it's kind of like our football family. And so for us, it's fun to get together. Keith Jackson was our color guy for a while. My first year, the thing about sports that's so great is it brings people together from all walks of life. I didn't know Keith very well. Keith was from Little Rock, and he went to Oklahoma, of course, and so I just didn't really know him. And so we were doing a game down at Ole Miss. We were playing Ole Miss. This was my first year doing play-by-play. I think it was Houston Nutt's last year as our head coach. We were beating them pretty good at halftime. And the Ole Miss band's performing out on the field. And it was, I don't remember if it was Patriots Day or it was something, but they were doing a patriotic theme. And so it ended with, John Philip Sousa's Stars and Stripes Forever. And so the piccolos are playing and the flag corps out there and they've got a rifle corps and they start firing off these streamers, red, white, and blue streamers. It was great. And we're up in the press box. We're watching it all. It's kind of a windy day. Back in those days, before they renovated their stadium, there was an electrical substation right by the Ole Miss football field. It was hidden by a big wall. Well, we could see what was about to happen. The people in the stands couldn't. But these streamers just kept floating over, kept getting closer, kept getting closer. And all of a sudden, you started hearing pop, 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 pop. Stadium went dark. Now, this is the days before, everybody had a generator at the ready. And so we were off the air for probably, I don't know, 10 minutes. Fortunately, it was during halftime. And so we come back on the air, we get back on the air, and I'm explaining what happened. And Keith just jumps in and goes, well, I know this. We grew up in different neighborhoods because when that popping started, you stood up and saluted, and I hit the deck. And so I knew right then that, yeah, we're probably from different spots. But I'm going to tell one more story on Quinn Grovey before I get to the meat of the matter. Keith left, and Quinn and I were partners on the pregame show for 12, 13 years. And then he became the color analyst for football. So we've been in the booth together for a number of years. How many of y'all remember the Liberty Bowl over in Memphis when we played East Carolina? It was Petrino's second year, I think. A few of you do. It was really cold. That's the thing I remember. Maybe the coldest football game I've ever been to. If I could have bailed out in the fourth quarter, I would have. I promise you, I was ready to go. And so Quinn's on the sidelines then. He was still the sideline reporter. And he's all bundled up. He's all ready to, battle the cold weather. Well, Quinn's also, as many of you know, one of our great quarterbacks. I am contractually obligated to say our greatest quarterback. He was really good. And anybody that's ever hung around a quarterback, they're a quarterback for life. I mean, Quinn thinks he's the best quarterback in the stadium every time he walks in the stadium. He's 58 years old. But at any rate, Quinn's on the sidelines being Quinn. And everybody's, trying to stay warm. And some guy looks down. He's one of our fans. Quinn, you're on fire. And, Quinn's a quarterback. He's thinking, yeah, man, I'm on fire. And guy goes, no, you're really on fire. He'd gotten too close to one of those heaters on the sidelines, and he had that polyurethane ski suit on. It caught on fire. And the guy says, no, you're actually on fire. And so Keith was in the booth, and Keith's a big guy. I don't know, it was about a size 50 coat. I don't know. But we took that down on the sidelines because Quinn's pants were they were gone. They were melted. And it was like 8 degrees out there. So he does the rest of the game with like Keith's trench coat wrapped around his waist. And he had to give the coat back before he went to his car. So it was kind of a cold walk. But we've got a lifetime of memories. And for us, just to be perfectly honest, those are the things we remember most. And I really think, I grew up in Arkansas. I went to a lot of games with my family. Sometimes the best conversations I ever had with my parents were going back and forth to Razorback games. If you lived locally, you didn't get to experience this. But you were captured. You weren't a captive audience. You were a captured audience in that car. And that's where you had a lot of conversations, was in the car as you traveled. And so I remember so many of those games. And I know we get hung up on wins and losses. I do too. I want to win every time they play. But when I think back on a lot of those games and the trips that I made with my family and the conversations that we had in the car, I don't remember who won the game. And I was into it. I was into it as a kid. I lived and died with every game. This is what I think makes college sports so great. We do get upset, and we do complain, and we do call upon people to get fired, and that's just how we are. But it's also how we mark time. Some of the greatest memories of our lives with our families and our friends have come through ball games. I know it's different now. It's a lot different now. All the requirements to be a fan are enormous, and I'm not breaking any news here. Some of you have probably already been affected by that, and I feel for you. I really do. Because, I grew up in a small town in Arkansas, and for the majority of my youth was raised by a single mother, public school teacher. We sat in the $2 end zone seats. Some of you, a lot of you maybe, old enough to remember when they had the wooden bleachers in the south end. And those were $2 a piece. $2 a piece. And that was in my teenage years, the early to mid 70s. It's a lot different now, obviously. But I hope and the ship may have sailed, but I hope that there will be a way for the average Arkansas kid to get to be exposed to things like this, because I know in my case, without that, it never would have happened. But I'm so lucky to get to do what I do. If you told me when I was 16 years old that I could do it for a couple of games, one game, one day, whatever the trade was, I'd have made it. I'd have made it. And I've gotten a chance to do it for a long time. And I can assure you, I don't take a day for granted. Not a single one. It's different now. The SEC is different now. You look at our league going into this year, there's 16 teams. I can remember when Missouri and Texas A&M were added to the league 13, 14 years ago, 15 almost, it seems like, maybe longer. That's when it became apparent that the television footprint was really kind of what was going to run college sports, college football particularly, from that point forward. I can remember when, Arkansas and South Carolina joined the league in the early 90s, it added a little bit, but not much. But when Missouri and Texas A&M came into being, or came into the conference, the potential viewers went from 19 million to 32 million, just by adding, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, St. Louis, Kansas City. And the money just went through the roof. And so it was pretty obvious when they could expand again that they would. No coincidence that Texas and Oklahoma were added shortly before the new television contract was to be negotiated with ESPN. Not coincidental at all. They added to the value. And the money that's being tossed around now it's mind-numbing, really. All of the things that are going on right now with players being paid, NIL, all that stuff, everything's a result of that television revenue. That's what enables, and ESPN's really got it figured out, ABC does. They pay the school so much money that theoretically they'll have enough money to go out and hire the best coaches. Now it's buy the best players. They're going to put on the best product. We're going to pay an astronomical sum. The schools are going to get money. Everybody's going to get rich, except the fans, of course. And but it really is. It's pretty smart the way they do it. And the money that they brought in is what enabled schools to go out and pay a Nick Saban $13 million to come be your coach. Can you imagine that? $13 million. You can coach pretty much anywhere in the SEC now and make $5 or $6 million a year. That's $500,000 a month for coaching football. That's incredible. Everybody's getting rich but me. That's what I think a lot of times when I'm up there. Arkansas is still, and in fact, a lot of the schools in the SEC find themselves in this spot. They're still in pretty much the same position they were in before. There aren't very many systems that are set up where the rich don't get richer and the poor aren't left to kind of deal with everything else. Now, we've got more than we used to have. But it's not like some of the other schools. It's not like Texas, obviously, has come into the league. And, Texas was always bigger than we were, had more money than we did. But the bigger and the richer and the, bigger and badder, it's 10 times now what it was then. I do think the revenue share is really, and in my mind, this is what maybe should have happened initially. The whole push for players to be paid was because of the television revenue. That's what gave coaches their salaries. It's what gave athletic directors their salaries. I can tell you that in every athletic department now, when there was one person 15 years ago, there's 4 or 5 now, and they're all getting paid. And so there is more money required. There's no doubt about that. But it's all the television money that's paying for everything. And the players very rightly wanted a piece of that pie. Well, now they're getting it to the tune of, in Arkansas's case, of a little over $20 million a year. Now, each school, you're not required to provide $20 million in payment to athletes. Say that to yourself, $20 million in payments to athletes. You're not required to do it, but if you want to have a chance to win, you have to do it. And the idea that one or two schools are going to be able to buck the system and bring everything back to the way it once was, probably not going to happen. I do think that something like this can help Arkansas and some of the smaller schools in our league compete. The one thing that has to happen in my mind, and I'm certainly not the authority on it, but I've heard a lot of people say this that are, you've got to stop the transfer portal and allowing these guys to, roam freely. Because, we've got players. We've had players, basketball and football. We're their third stop. There's basketball players out there that play 4 different schools. 4 years, 4 different schools. Because you're never more valuable than when you're a free agent. You can in football, you don't even have to start. But if you're like an offensive lineman and you're big, I mean, somebody's going to pay you $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year to come play for them. You don't even have to be a starter, because when you enter that portal, you're never going to be more valuable than you are right then. That's why we've had players enter the portal. Everyone thinks when a kid leaves, it's because he's mad. No, you have a great year, that's the time to go. That's the way the system's set up. Because if a player, say a player that's not very heralded, has a great year, his value is through the roof. You remember the kid that scored the touchdown in the bowl game, Desmond James? You remember him? Now, I think they thought he was going to leave anyway. But I can remember about the time he hit the goal line, I thought to myself, well, he's gone. he ain't going to be here next year. Because he's going to go back in there and he's going to think he's a stud and he's going to ask for about $300,000 or $400,000, and they're going to say, one touchdown's not worth that unless you can get somebody else to tell you it is. And that's what happens. The school that they're making these requests from, they know the whole story. And they know why the guy didn't play until the bowl game. They know everything that went on during the year. All the new school knows is, man, he sure was fast on that play, and we need a guy out there. We got a little extra money, so yeah, we may be paying him more than he's worth, but we need him. And so that's how it goes. If you can come up with a system, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think it's going to happen right away. If you can come up with a system where a kid should be able to transfer one time without penalty. Sometimes coach lies to him. I mean, sometimes the promise that's made on the recruiting trail doesn't quite turn out to be true. Sometimes a kid gets somewhere and, man, he misses his mama and daddy, misses his girlfriend, or he's not getting to play and he's getting homesick. You ought to be able to leave. I mean, any of us, if we go somewhere our freshman year and we don't like it, we can go, we can leave. Now, once you get further along in your academic career, you start thinking about credits transferring and things like that. But that first year, you get there, maybe you party too much, do whatever it is you do your first year around. You end up somewhere else that next year. Happens all the time. I got no problem with athletes doing that too. But after that, generally it's because you're quitting. Generally it's because they're not telling me what I want to hear. I'm not playing enough. This guy 2 lockers down is making twice as much money as I am. He's got a better car than I do. Coach likes him more than me. He's overpaid, I'm underpaid. All that stuff comes up now. And these kids aren't mature enough to handle all that stuff. And it does affect things on a daily basis. So kids now, when they have a bad day like that, well, all they got to do is go home, click on a couple of, hit a couple of clicks on their computer. They're in the transfer portal. And you shouldn't be able to do that. The second time you transfer, as long as you're in good academic standing, you can transfer, but you're going to have to sit out a year, just like the old days. Now, if you graduate in 3 years and you want to transfer, transfer. You've earned your degree. Free to go wherever you want. But I really do believe you would solve a lot of these issues if you would limit these kids to one transfer without penalty. If you do that, I think a lot of the other problems will take care of themselves. If they don't, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think it's on the horizon, because I don't. But if they don't, it's going to continue to be just like it is right now. In fact, it may get worse. The pendulum, one thing about sports, college sports especially, the pendulum always swings wildly from one side to the other. Nobody ever stops in the middle. I mean, look at a coaching hire. Whatever the personality is of the guy you fired, you're going to hire exactly the opposite. You know, when an athletic director's dismissed, the smartest thing the new guy can do is the exact opposite of what the old guy did on everything, truthfully. And that's just kind of how the setup works now. Arkansas is in a pivotal year in football, pivotal time in football. Arkansas spent some money. The Razorbacks spent some money during this past offseason. And, I don't know that that's, I almost sounds a little embarrassing to say, hey, man, we spent some money. We spent a bunch of money. And that's, as though that's, the end all be all. But we did. And I do think there have been upgrades at a lot of positions. The challenge is in our league, everybody upgrades after every year. And there have only been 6 schools that have won SEC football championships since 1977. That's been a long time. Only 6 have ever won SEC football championships. The glass ceiling that you have to crack in football, so much more difficult than in the other sports. Baseball, for example, I had 5 SEC national championships in a row from 5 different schools. National championships. We've had 6 conference champions in football since '77. So it's very, very difficult. I don't know that Georgia and Alabama and places like that are ever going to fall on hard times. I mean, they're going to have to screw it up. Now, they have before, and maybe they will again. But it's going to be hard for them to screw it up. It's difficult to beat those teams on a consistent basis. I think Arkansas this year, I do think this is a bowl team. Now, what bowl, we'll have to see. And I know people, when you talk about a 6-6, 7-5 bowl, that's not what people want. I know that. I guess what I'm saying is when you go through the schedule, it's hard to find the wins. It's just hard to find the wins. Everybody has a tough schedule. We're no exception there. But it's just hard to find the wins. Arkansas plays 5 games before the end of September. They play here against Alabama A&M, go to Little Rock, play Arkansas State. Then they go to Ole Miss and Memphis in back-to-back weeks, and then they come home and play Notre Dame. This is a fire-me schedule. I mean, it really is. If you're a coach, it's a fire-me schedule. There's 3 home games in the middle of the season. After the Tennessee game, there's 3 straight games where you play in Fayetteville. They're going to have to do well in those games. I view this season, you got a 5-game segment to the end of September. Then you've got an open week. Then you got 3 games, 4 games. Then you got an open week. And then you wrap up in November with 3 more. You got to be above 500 when you get out of September. You got to be above 500. You need to be above 500 when you get to November because you're going to play at Texas, at LSU, back to back, and then you're going to play Missouri. November is going to be tough. So that's kind of where I see it. I wish I could sit here and tell you that this is going to be the year Arkansas breaks through and wins the SEC. I don't know that that's going to happen. But I do think that there's going to be a bowl game. And I think it's going to be that kind of year. It's going to be a challenge to break that glass ceiling. I will say this. Arkansas has got a great quarterback. Arkansas does have a good quarterback. And one of the things to watch this year, early in the season, particularly with teams like Alabama and Georgia, is the fact that they've got new quarterbacks. Texas, as heralded as they are, they have 4 new offensive linemen. We tend to focus or base our opinions on a season on how somebody looks mid-season, how they were at the end of the year when they're at their top form. We're going to catch some of these guys early. Ole Miss has got a new starting quarterback. Those are the things that particularly early in the season I think will help Arkansas. Now they got to keep Green healthy as we go along. But I would say this, early on, if Arkansas has got a chance to spring an upset or two, it's because they're going to be better at the quarterback spot. Petrino's a pretty good tutor. And honestly, my hope last year was that they'd win enough games where everybody could keep their job so Petrino and Taylor Green could have another year to work together. because I remember how much better Ryan Mallett was in his second year. And so that gives me hope for this year. It's 10-1, and I told John I'd open it up for questions, and I know I got to be out here at 1 o'clock. So if anybody's got questions, I'll do my best. Jerry in the back.
How about the offensive line? Are they gonna give Green enough time to?
Hope so. I think they're set on the left side. They've got a new tackle in. His name's Corey Robinson, big kid. That allowed him to move Carmona to guard. So he's going to move from tackle to guard. They've got a new center in that they feel like, I mean, his last name's Kittler, and he took the job from day one. There's a kid from Fort Smith named Kobe Branham at right guard. He's in a battle right now with Blackstock. As soon as Branham starts, and I think it'll be the first game, just for the record, he may start his entire career. He's a big, raw country boy from Fort Smith. And he's an in-state kid, and I think he's going to be a starter there until he goes to the NFL. They've got a battle at right tackle. Harris is back, and then they've got a kid named Shaq McCroy that they got from Oregon. He's like 6'8", casts a pretty good shadow, well over 300. So the honest answer is I'm not sure, because we've not seen him play for us. We've not seen him play against the teams we play. But I know that these are better football players, and I don't mean that against what we had last year. These are better linemen. Now, the offensive lines, if there's ever a spot where 5 have to play as 1, that's it. It's unlike any other position group. You have to be in sync, and that's hard to do with new guys. So how quickly that happens, I think, will determine a lot of it. Yes.
Why is it that year after year, and I'm thinking at least the last 10 years, every year we're in the top 10 toughest schedules in the country?
I don't know the answer to that one, other than, we play a thing on our show that says, when's the last time the SEC said, I'm going to make an announcement about Arkansas, and you thought to yourself, well, this will be good news. It just doesn't seem to work that way. I think we play 6 teams that are ranked. The most anybody plays in the league 7. We play 6 this year. Now, part of it is, if we're being honest, it's because Arkansas has been at the bottom, and all the teams that they've played have been higher than them in the rankings, and so therefore your schedule looks a little bit tougher, and theirs looks a little bit easier because they get to play us. Just to be truthful about it. Alabama, I know Vanderbilt got them last year, but Alabama plays Vandy and Kentucky, and there's a difference in schedule. But here's the thing. What I would like to see our league do, something similar to what the NFL does. If you're a good team in the NFL, if you make the playoffs, you're going to play a playoff team schedule next year. It's going to be a tougher schedule than the schedule you played this year. If you're not any good, say you play 17 games, you win 4 or 5. Well, you're going to have an easier schedule next year. And when you lose a free agent, like in college, like when you lose a kid through the portal. In the pros, you lose a kid through free agency. You get a compensatory draft pick in return. A lot of people don't know that. When draft day comes around, you'll hear them talk about supplemental picks and sandwich picks, and there's always a handful of picks between the first and second and third rounds. Those are compensations for picks for losing free agents. In college, you get nothing. You get nothing. And they can leave, whenever they want. So in the NFL, my point is with scheduling, there's some rhyme and reason to it. And that if it's really tough this year, then it's going to be different next year. In our league, boy, it seems like it's the same thing every year. I wish I could give you a good answer, but I can't. Yes.
Would salary caps and contracts and kind of on the business side of this run this more like the NFL than right now? It's my understanding we can pay any player any amount we wanted. Is that a fair statement?
Well, not quite. You have to be able to, they're getting $1 million for going to reading to, 3 or 4 schools that year. I mean, you can't do that anymore. You're gonna have to justify a lot of this NIL money, but there is no restriction. To answer your question, if you want to empty your entire vault on one player, yeah, you can.
And he could leave next week.
He could.
So
He sure could.
contracts ought to be a part of the discussion.
They are now. That is, I don't, now look, we can get out of my area of expertise real quickly when we start talking about employment and antitrust. I mean, we're way out of my jurisdiction there. But there are going to be contracts. And I don't think you're going to see as many getting money up front. We had the quarterback that came in from California and pocketed a couple $100,000 without ever playing a game and then skipped town. And, you can huff and puff all you want, but you really can't do much about it. And so, yeah, it'd be nice. And there will be mechanisms in place to prevent that.
One more.
Sure.
Do you how much longer do you think you're going to do what you're doing for?
As long as they'll let me. I'm 62 now. I would like to do, honestly, I'd like to do it until I, don't feel like I can. I'm on a morning radio show now, and that makes basketball a little more difficult. I hate 8 o'clock games. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'd like to do it for a while. I mean, I don't see the end of the line yet. They may, but I don't.
One more question.
Yes, Malin. Well, he's heralded. I mean, he was good in high school. He's been good in practice. Now, you can't simulate 75,000 people in the game on the line. You can't simulate that. I've seen him. We've all seen him. Guys, kick 55, 60 yarders in practice, 4 or 5 in a row, and just make it look effortless. And then you get them in front of 60,000 people with 4 seconds left in the game, and I mean, they melt just like any of the rest of us would. So this guy's got the leg. He's a touchback machine. His range is beyond 50. It's a question of accuracy. Yeah, Cam Little kick. What was impressive about that? Most of those kicks like that are either in Denver or they're in a dome. I don't know that there's a place on earth where the air is heavier than Jacksonville, Florida. I mean, that is heavy air. And outdoors, for him to kick a 70-yard field goal, it's not an official record because it's not a regular season game, but yeah, that was pretty impressive. All right, one.
All right. Oh, one more.
Yeah.
Maybe wants one more.
He's really good. I mean, KJ Jackson's his name. He's from Montgomery, Alabama. He's 6'4". They plan on him being the quarterback next year. And I'll tell you, he can sling it. He's a better passer than Green is. In terms of velocity, he's got some smoke on the ball. Now you just hope somebody doesn't come get him. That's just the truth. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you, Chuck Barrett.
Of all the Razorback paraphernalia that you have, do you have one of these?
This is the first gold one I've ever
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, John, for bringing Chuck. We really appreciate that. That was a great and informative talk. We're at time. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Okay, that's fine.